Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi, how are you? I have a kasha. Hilchos Shomer Negiah. My understanding is that it's a machlokes whether it's a deraisa or derabanan, the Rambam versus everybody else, right?
I don't remember who the deis are, but it is machlokes deraisa or derabanan. That's true.
So my kasha is, first off, how do we paskin? And second of all, if it is deraisa, and if there's even a havamina that's a deraisa, how could there be rabbanim out there who will shake a girl's hand in a business meeting if, like, this is a deraisa, how could there be heterin for a deraisa? And if it's a derabanan, even a serious derabanan, how can there be... I mean, my understanding is there are legitimate poskim out there that say that in these kinds of situations it's okay. So my question is that whole area.
Okay, my field is not halacha. I'm trained in hashkaf. That's my training. But I can tell you this. There are two different questions which I don't think you're separating. One is the halachic status of the prohibition, number one. And number two is what is the definition of the prohibition? What exactly is it that is prohibited? And some say that the whole prohibition refers only to the Negiah shel kirva, the touching that brings to kirva. And in that case, shaking hands at a business meeting would not be covered under the prohibition at all.
So what's kirva?
Oh, sorry. Kirva means intimacy, a personal sharing, something that goes beyond mere politeness, something that goes beyond mere formality. And they will say, maybe where it's usher deraisa, but in this case, not usher at all. And I understand from a story that I heard, I can't repeat it because I haven't got permission, but, well, I can repeat it anonymously. Apparently the Gedolei Ashkenaz were makel in that respect. There's one boy who became a Baal Shuv, and his father was rabbi in a conservative synagogue. And he had to go home for the summer. So he said, how am I going to avoid davening at my father's house there? So daven with your father. So he said, but afterwards there's a receiving line. Everybody lines up and says, good evening or whatever to the and I'm the rabbi's son. I'm going to have to stand there. So stand there. So he said, but the women will want to shake hands. He said, then shake hands. Rabbanei Ashkenaz hitiru v'heim lo hayu shkotzim. If I told you the name who said it, you wouldn't believe who said it. I heard it from an eyewitness. The rabbis of Germany permitted it, and they were not throwaways. Although shkotzim is stronger than throwaways. They were not throwaways. So, of course, it may require special circumstances for a heter to apply. But it is that you have to separate out two questions. What's the halachic status of the prohibition in the first place? Number two, what does it actually cover? What does it apply to? And there is a respectable opinion that it only applies to something which is an expression of something more intimate than just business, a business relationship. If you ask about halacha, if by chance I know the answer, I'll tell you. But as I say, I'm really not trained in it. Yeah.
Why was the Torah written in third person as opposed to God saying, I said to Moses, or Moses saying, I heard from God?
Now, Ramban talks about this in his introduction to the Torah. And it's not written as, and it's not to be understood as, a book that is composed to record historical events. The Torah was composed as one of the first acts of creation. It predates the whole of our history. So to make it sound as if it's a narrative makes it sound as if it's recording the events as they happen. And that's an entirely false appearance. And as a matter of fact, many times in the Torah and in the Tanakh, Hashem refers to himself in the third person. He's speaking and refers to himself in the third person. So the fact that it describes in the third person would not be an oddity in terms of the style of the Tanakh.
Isn't that generally after it says Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor?
No, this is not Lemor. It's where he's giving instructions or making predictions about the future. I, Hashem, will take, and it comes out in the third person, not in first person. That kind of shifting back and forth goes on all the time. So within the style, literary style of the Torah, it's not as striking as it would be for us, where you wouldn't do that.
I was learning the story of Avram going down to Egypt.
Yeah.
So Avram said to Sarah, I know you're a woman who is beautiful. So Rashi says, why did he say, I think it's Rashi, so why did he say a woman? He says, because you're the most beautiful in the world. So what are we being told in that point? Why are we being told that Sarah was one of the most beautiful women in the world? Okay, it's nice, very nice.
Yeah, no, but I think you have to understand the whole scenario. It's very interesting. He says, please say you're my sister, so that it may go well with me for your sake, and I will live on account of you. What do you think he means when he says, so that it will go well with me? What's that referring to? Does he mean I'll stay alive? Very hard to say that because that's the next words. The next words, and I will live on account of you. So one of the Rishonim does say it, but it's like the explanation. But it's a little bit hard to say the same thing twice. So Rashi says, they'll give me gifts. Oh, that's lovely. Let's see now. Please lie for me and say you're my sister. Why? Well, first of all, I'm going to get rich. And second of all, there wasn't second of all, give me a chance, I'll think of it. Oh yeah, I'm going to stay alive also. I mean, that does sound a little odd, right? But Rashi's pretty clear. It means this. If they think we're husband and wife, they're going to kill me and take you. If they think we're brother and sister, what are they going to do? Well, they're not going to kill me. Why should they kill the brother, right? And they're not just going to take you. I'm your brother. I'm your protector. They're going to negotiate with me for permission. They're not savages. They're not hiding in caves and jumping from rock to rock. This is a civilization. Okay, if the only way they can get you is to kill me, they'll do that. But if they can be done in a civilized way, they will do it in a civilized way. So they'll give me gifts in order to bribe me or butter me up so that I'll agree. And during the time of negotiations, then we will... Now, why does Abraham think there will be negotiations? Why does he think that, who does he think he's going to negotiate with? Well, she's the most beautiful woman in the world, so she's going to go to the top. Now, I don't know if he anticipates that Pharaoh, who already has 132 wives, is going to go after her, but somebody on the top is going to go after her. That, in fact, is what happens to Pharaoh. So you're setting up the idea that she's going to be attractive to the very top of society.
What do you say? What do we learn out of that? It's a nice point for the understanding of the story, but is it important to us nowadays?
Okay, that's the right question to ask. The Torah has infinite implications. If I tell you one implication, I don't mean to pretend that I'm exhausting it, but I think you have to be realistic about other people's culture, other people's psychology, other people's desires, and you have to take care, if you can, to protect yourself using whatever subterfuge, whatever plan is going to be effective. By the way, from the second incident with Avimelech, he says to her, this was our policy when we set out from our homeland. They did this scores of times. They traveled for decades. Every place they came to, it worked but two. Right, so it was a very good strategy, very successful strategy. In the two times it didn't work, HaKadosh Baruch Hu intervened to save them. So this was the attitude that you have to devise a strategy for living, taking into account it's a lesson in Hishtadlus, that you don't simply say, well, God will protect me. Yes, when the chips are down and your best efforts at a strategy fail, then God may indeed intervene to protect you. But that's not an excuse for quietism. Simply say, let's leave it to Gottlieb to take care of. And you have to know what you're dealing with. I mean, this is a little bit of a jump, but it's very interesting. People ask me, I don't learn Torah. What do you learn? What's it to learn, right? To be safe, voluntarily kept, the mitzvahs, things like that to learn. The Gemara says that Abraham had 400 tractates of Avodah Zarah, of idol worship. Idol worship was very, widespread, was the whole world, and they're very various. And in order to know what to do with these people, you may need to know their customs and know their ideology. I don't know if you were aware of it. Maybe it's about like 5 years ago. Maybe you're too young to be aware of it then. But there was a whole controversy with the hair that's used to make shaitels. It comes from India, and there was a report that it was used in some cult in India. And maybe if they used it in a cult, it's forbidden to have any benefit from it. And all the shaitels would be usher. It would be a gigantic tragedy, people burning their shaitels. A friend of mine knew somebody who was a convert from India. And he had an uncle there. He wrote to his uncle, and this is what he got back. Now, I'm not swearing this is true, obviously, but this is what he got back. This cult has as a principle that at some point in your life, 20s, 30s, you have to give up something that's very precious to you. Whatever it is, you have to give it up as an act of loyalty to the gods of that cult. You like yogurts? Give up yogurts. Women often gave up their hair. They grew long, beautiful, luxurious hair, and they cut it all off to honor the idol. And you have this place where they worship the idol. Then there's a side room. That's the hair cutting room. They go in there, they cut up their hair, they leave it there. The priests there take the hair, they sell it, and they use the money to. Is that a sacrifice to the idol? Doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it. It's just giving up something that's of value to you in honor of, but it's not a sacrifice, in which case it won't be forbidden. Now, that means you have to study the idol worshippers and study what their beliefs are and their practices are to know what your halacha tells you you can do or can't do with them. So that's just a symptom of the fact that you live in a world with other people. You need to know enough about their culture, enough about their values, enough about their psychology and their practices to know how to deal with them. And dealing with them can be sometimes life and death. So that's one thing you can learn from it. Yeah.
What was the strategy to begin with? If he's just saying that he's going to enter into negotiations to marry Sarah off to a minister, that's not.
No, that was in Egypt. In Egypt, you had a big empire, and he didn't go there. He didn't go there as l'chatchila. He went there because there was a famine. That was a place that had food, and I don't know if that he would have volunteered to go there had it not been by the force of famine. He traveled to other places because he didn't have any permanent place.
And all the places he used that particular strategy.
The pasuk says it.
So then, what is that strategy?
The strategy is that we are brother and sister, and that you're under my charge. And if you see husband and wife, so then you know there's only one way out. You kill them without asking questions, but it's brother and sister. So you see, and you say no. She says no. You can bide your time, and then if things get difficult, you can leave. They walk out, go someplace else. I guess. I mean, but it's clear only after the second incident does he say we did this all the time and it was always successful. Yeah.
Apparently, the Aztecs have some sort of myth about being led into the land.
Yes, and I checked that out, and if you look at it, it reads like this: in the 17th year of the Great Bull, XYZ happened, and then after that, in the 433rd year of the Great Squirrel, this happened, and in the 15th year of the fish, and I asked the people who were researching this, how do they correlate the years of the Great Bull and the years of the fish and the squirrel with our years? They don't. So they put it in the indefinite past, for which there are no other records and no other memories. I have that in my writing. That's a way that you can get around. It's not the way my principle applies. My principle applies only when there is a recorded, continuous history between the event that you're describing and where you're standing. If you put it so far in the past that there's no recorded history in between, then you can make up false stories. The first one that I heard of was a fairly widespread myth that once upon a time, people spoke with animals. And it's a fairly widespread myth. But it's always once upon a time. It isn't that in the time of the great-grandfather of the present king, 174 years ago, that's when it happened. No, they never put it in time. They can't put it in time, because they put it in time, they'll have memories from that time, and the memories will show them that they're wrong.
And that wouldn't apply to the pasuk that says that nobody's ever going to claim such a thing is only talking about claiming something in the...
Now I'm going to tell you something very painful. I'm going to say something very painful. There is no such pasuk.
Hanishma...
The pasuk is in the past tense, not in the future tense. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to Klal Yisrael, because Baruch Hu made promises to you. Yes, look it up.
So which
It's in
pasuk?
Dvorim. It's right after it's probably in Vaschanan. So it's after Matan Torah. Hanishma. He's saying, of course, Baruch Hu promised you certain things. You can trust him because you I'm speaking to can trust him because think of the past history of the world. Has this sort of thing ever happened? It's all in the past tense. I challenged somebody once in public who was using this as an argument. And after doing a couple of rounds on the grammar, he had to give in. And he said, well, the Rambam says it's referring to the future. And he named the Mama of the Rambam, but it's not true. I looked it up, it's not true. I don't know anybody who says that's used in Kiruv, but I think it's a mistake. And you won't hear it from me.
It's only past tense from the Matan Torah.
I'll show it to you. I can find it.
It said just before it's Daled Lamed. In Daled Lamed it says, "Achros hayom." At the end of days, you'll ask yourself.
No, that's not it. That's not what we're talking about.
And afterwards, it says, "Hanish Machayim."
No.
Now at base, Daled Lamed base, it says, "Hamniach Kadol Hagadol Zel Hanish Machayim." Does this ever happen? No.
Where do you say this?
Daled Lamed says, "Ba'achros hayom." Tzalach Lom Sa'uch Ha'chayim V'Ramo Eila. Ba'achros hayom. End of days, you're going to ask yourself, and then this is later. It says, "Hamniach Kadol Hagadol Zel Hanish Machayim." Has it ever happened or ever been heard of? At the end of days, we're going to ask ourselves.
This is you have the right place, but you're not not reading it right. It starts on the previous page, verse 25. This is a kriya in Tisha B'Av. You're going to grow old in the land, and you're going to start worshiping idols. Then you're going to be destroyed. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu will scatter you out throughout all the lands, and from there you will search out HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll find him. You'll search for him with all your heart and all your soul. When you're in travail, trouble, pain, all these things will happen to you. At the end of days, it's describing what will happen at the end of days. You'll be in the land, you'll grow old in the land, you'll worship idols, you'll be conquered, you'll be destroyed, you'll be scattered. That's what's going to happen at the end of the days. And then you'll return to Hashem, and He'll hear you, because Hashem is merciful. He will not give you up. He will not utterly destroy you. He will not forget His covenant with your fathers that He swore to them. That's the story. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want you to believe this. I want you to believe that no matter how bad it gets, no matter how much destruction you suffer, no matter how much disposal you suffer, I want you to believe that His Baruch Hu will never abandon you, never utterly destroy you, and He will keep the covenant that He said to you. Key 4. Now ask about history and see whether what has already happened to you happened to anybody else. No one else had this happen to you that it's happened now. So this promise that I gave you, that in the end, when you worship idols and you'll be kicked out of the land, and then you'll go back to God and He'll take you back. This promise that I'm telling you is something you should trust because of the history that you have experienced up until now. That's what it says.
It's talking about the carries on. Hashem Ha'om, the Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Yeah.
Well, that's the key. Sha'alma. You people now I'm speaking to. You ask for the earlier days that were before you. Before you,
right.
Not the future generations, before you now. From the day that Hashem created the earth, from the ends of the heavens to the ends of the heavens, has anything like this great thing happened? Or has anyone heard of such a thing? Has a nation heard God speaking from the fire, like you heard, and lived? Has God taken them out of one nation out of another nation with great miracles and wonders and wars and strong hand, as Hashem did to you in front of your eyes? He's referring to the past history of the Jewish people up to the point of His speaking now. I mean, that's what the verses say.
And He's trying to prove from there that this is the true religion. What's most?
I said it twice. Now listen again. Try to listen again. Right. You have a certain thing that you're working on in your mind, and you're not hearing because you're not. He's telling them a particular scenario.
Right.
He's telling them a scenario in the future. Not this is the true religion. You have to keep Shabbos. You didn't mention Shabbos. To talk about not eating pigs. Didn't talk about worshiping only in the temple. Didn't say anything about that. He's telling them a story. He's solely bonim ba'aretz. You're going to have children in the land, and you're going to grow old in the land, and there'll come a time when you'll worship idols, and then you'll be conquered, and you'll be tortured, and you'll be in terrible pain and trouble, and then you'll go into exile. But Hashem will not forget you. He will not utterly destroy you. He'll remember His covenant with you, and He'll take you back. That's the story. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want you to believe that story. I want you to believe what I just told you.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible. Sounds incredible, right? Sounds incredible that we'll worship idols, and we'll be kicked out, and we'll be suffering, and we'll be persecuted, and so on. But Hashem will remember it, take us back, right? Well, if it's a story that's hard for you to believe, something that's hard for you to accept and believe in, think about what you've experienced already up until now. That's also hard to believe in, hard to imagine, but look, it happened. You know it happened. You experienced it, right? You were taken out of Egypt. You heard God speak from the fire. Since you heard and saw those things, you have a basis to believe this story that I just told you about the future.
So how will you translate Kisha al-No? What's he saying?
Four. I'm telling you a story. Four. No, of course not. Four. Ask now. Right?
Right. Ask now if something like this never happened. Mm-hmm. Right. So you just said,
even if you said it was, it can't be when. Child is a tzivui. Ask. So you can't be. You're not talking about when people will ask in the future. You're getting a tzivui. Ask. So just speaking to the people in front of you.
Right. So the Incas' myth was made up, obviously, after this point. Then.
Sure, the Incas' myth can easily be made up. Look, I have what I call, I think. It's on my website for a couple of years already, but it's not the main piece of writing. I have what I call the audience test. If you want to know what kind of story my principle applies to, it's a principle to which you can apply the audience test. Now, the audience test is a criterion of getting the right kind of story. It's not the reason why you should believe the story. It's just a criterion for being the right kind of story. The reason you believe the story is because historically these stories never have been shown to be false. That's a historical survey, and that's the reason. The reason is an empirical historical survey. But what kind of story is it? It's a story that works like this. You imagine someone making up the story and telling it to a group of people. I want to tell you something. You're not aware of this, but your ancestors had this following experience. This happened to your ancestors. If the audience can say, what? This happened to our ancestors? But if it happened to our ancestors, we should know about it. You're telling a spectacular story. A gigantic experience that everybody had, a spectacular experience. What happened? Got forgotten? I can't believe that. Some things don't get forgotten. If it's the kind of story for which the audience can ask that question, then that's where my principle applies. Now, one way to make it impossible for the audience to ask that question is to put it indefinitely in the past. Once upon a time. Once upon a time? I don't know. Did anything survive from that time? Do I have any stories from that time? Maybe indeed. So long ago that people forgot things that happened at that time. That could be, as long as you can't apply what I call the audience test, where the audience can ask that question. If that question can't be raised by the audience, my principle doesn't apply to that story. That's why it's crucial to get the dating in. And when you date it in terms of the great bear and the great cow and the great moose and the great squirrel, that's not going to do it.
Only if you can't date that into our actual calendar.
So I asked them, show me in the Aztec records how this relates to our calendar. There's no relation at all. So what it means is put in the indefinite past. That's the equivalent to once upon a time.
Didn't the Aztecs understand what the Aztecs saying either?
Sorry?
The Aztecs wrote in the years of the Great Bear.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense to them. They just wrote rubbish.
Well, it's like we say once upon a time.
No, for the Aztecs, it made sense. No, they just.
Well, sure,
it
made sense symbolically. I don't know. Yeah.
Did the Trojans have some sort of history that during the Trojan War, the gods came and helped them?
It's like 50 years, or 55 years since I read the Iliad, but the stories, the Iliad is written from the Greek point of view, not from the Trojan point of view, and it does have stories about the gods and goddesses helping them, but they are crafted very carefully. I put that in the book. In the book, I think they are crafted very carefully. For example, Achilles, who's the hero of the Greeks, goes up a mountain, and he has a conference with one of the Greek goddesses. He comes down to the army, he tells them, Athene told me this is what we should do, right? Of course, he's telling them, he's the only one who witnessed on the mountaintop. The next day, she comes down and fights on the battlefield together with the Greek warriors. So I thought, how about that? That's something. But then the text actually says, but her chariot goes by so quickly, all you see is the dust. Right. The story is told in such a way as to protect it from being a mass observation. All you see is the dust. Well, battlefields are filled with dust. You know, that's her chariot going by. Right, but you can't see her. The stories are very carefully crafted to avoid any public appearance of that kind. And that's true throughout the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I read in those days. They're all small scale matter.
With up due respect, why is that any different than Eliyahu Navi?
Who's talking about Eliyahu Navi?
I am, right now.
Why?
Because Eliyahu Navi comes to our Pesach Seder and he comes to our Bris Milas, but he's invisible.
Okay, so what's it got to do?
Why is that any different than Athena just going so fast? That
it isn't. Who said it was?
So if it's not different, so then how can it be okay with us, but with them it's carefully crafted story?
Because we're talking about a national revelation. We're talking about a national revelation. We're not talking about an event that happened to one person. An event that happened to one person cannot be verified by itself.
But
a national revelation can be...
happens to one baby, but the room's filled with people.
What are we talking about now? I'm talking about a national experience. I said that before. A national experience. It doesn't cover Eliyahu Navi, and doesn't cover Achilles, doesn't cover private miracles, doesn't cover them. My principle has nothing to do with small-scale events. It has to do with national experiences.
All right.
Yeah.
Does the Torah says that you're able to sell people? We don't respect the right or whatever of a person to be free.
Well, sell people. You have to define what you're talking about. You're talking about economy. Let me talk globally about the idea of slavery, and then maybe we can talk about this detail if it's still necessary. The modern world is against slavery, and the Torah definitely has a tolerance for slavery, as institutions of slavery. What is the difference between the points of view? I'm going to tell you something now that's very fundamental. You have to put this in your hip pocket and keep it available. When you see differences in moral practice or in concrete moral judgments, you have to know that every concrete moral judgment or practice is based on two foundations. One foundation is your moral principles, and the other foundation is the relevant facts. And when there's a disagreement in concrete moral judgments or moral practices, very often it's because there's a difference in the relevant facts and no difference in moral principles at all. Once upon a time, about 150 years ago, going back for thousands of years, when a person had a fever, it was medical practice to bleed them. We don't do that anymore. Have our morals changed? No, our medical information changed. It used to be thought that was good for people with fevers, and now we know it's not good for people with fevers. Practice changes. You'll praise a doctor 200 years ago who bleeds, and a doctor who bleeds today will go to jail. What happened? What happened is we learned some new facts, and therefore we changed the practice. When you see a difference of practice, you have to know that very often, most often, maybe even almost always, it's a matter of difference in facts. Now, what was the ancient attitude towards slavery? Aristotle says quite clearly, non-Greeks are barbarians. They're inherently uncivilized. An uncivilized person is an unfortunate. He can't make a success of his life. He can't have a culture. He can't have understanding of the world. He can't have an existence that's truly productive. He can't do anything that's of real value. If he becomes a slave, you're elevating the value of his life. That's not a crime to him. That's a benefit to him. Do we disagree with that? With that moral principle that there are people who are unable to live productive, valuable lives, and therefore their lives have to be dictated by others? How about children? How about freedom for 6-year-olds? Who are you to push that 6-year-old around? Because he's going to kill himself. What about people with mental deficits? What about people with emotional difficulties? What about driver's license for someone who has epileptic fits? Why is he being treated unfairly? Because he's dangerous to himself and he's dangerous to other people. Slavery will be quite appropriate. It will be beneficial if you think that the person who is the slave is being benefited thereby, because without being a slave, he's going to have an unfortunate life. He's going to have a life that will be much worse for him and much worse for everybody around him. Then the question is, who are those people? So, the modern attitude is, if he can earn a living, if he isn't going to be an open crook, this is part of the mafia, and then he can be an open crook, and they won't touch him. So then his life is fine, nothing wrong with it, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be allowed to do that. We have a different view of the facts. Our view of the facts is that whether or not your life is worthwhile depends upon your soul. Let me make a very prejudiced remark. There are a lot of people in the entertainment industry who we would say don't have lives. They don't have lives. They're in the public eye all the time. Behind the scene, they take drugs. They die early. They go through 6 marriages. They don't have lives. They can earn a living till they blow it on drugs or commit suicide, but that's not a life. From our point of view, divine providence arranges it that the people who end up as slaves are people whose lives are benefited thereby. Now, who was Hagar? Sarah's maidservant. She was an Egyptian princess. And she said, better a servant in Abraham's house than an Egyptian princess. Do you know the names of any other Egyptian princesses? Ask your well-educated friends. They know the names of other Egyptian princesses. So they study their words and study their words to figure out what's right and what's wrong and how to live and so faithfulness and so forth and so on. She earned a place in eternity by becoming a servant in Abraham's house. She gave birth to Ishmael, who died at Tzaddik. Ishmael died at Tzaddik, and has a place to play in world history. She definitely was much better off as Abraham's slave than she would have been as remaining as an Egyptian princess. So our view is that non-Jews who become Jewish slaves, and by the way, according to the halacha, it never had to happen. It never had to happen. There's nothing built into the Torah that non-Jews have to be Jewish slaves. It only happens in one of two ways, either by war, which when they start a war, so then, and all wars are started by others. We never start a war. We never start any war. You don't know this? I'll teach you this in a moment.
Like the first one.
I'm telling you.
We slaughtered all the giants, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm telling you. We asked for peace. We asked for peaceful passage through there. They came out with an army to attack us. In every case, we offered them peace. We never attacked anyone. We never attacked anyone. Not Amalek, not the 7 tribes, not the 7 nations that inhabited Israel. The Rambam says you don't make war with a person, Adam ba'olam, any person in the world before offering him peace. Anyone.
Amalek?
It says, Amalek, he says Amalek by name, and the 7 nations by name. Everyone has to be offered peace. And in Dvorim, it says that by Sichon and Og, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened their hearts. It doesn't say it in this week's parsha, but it says it over there, they hardened their hearts. Right? So the attitude is, according to the Torah, there never had to be any non-Jewish slaves. A non-Jew becomes a slave either through war or because a non-Jewish owner of a slave sells him to a Jew. But it didn't have to happen.
That's not offering peace if you say, like, we're going to go live in your land and take over, but you can stay and live. That's not peace. It's like taking over Eretz Yisrael, and you guys, you can do whatever you want. You need to accept Shem Mitzvah, but you can live. That's not peace.
It's like you moving into your living room.
In our opinion, it was our land, right?
Well, it is. It depends on what the alternative is that you're excluding. The alternative that I'm excluding is genocide. We are accused of being genocidal, and genocide means, if you're like the Nazis, if you have 1/4 Jewish, so you're dead. You can offer peace, you can become a Nazi, you can write propaganda. No. 1/4 Jewish, bang, you're dead. Right? We're talking about that, and it is identified more or less genetically. We're talking about the people of a certain nation, right? But we always offer them peace. Now, if you ask what right we had to subdue them, that's what the first Rashi in Chumash says, right? So, but it's not a question of simply saying, we set up the guns and attack. We don't do that. You could always emigrate, or you could Shebemus B'nai Noach. They have to do that. If they don't do that, then they're Chayav Misa, right? They have to die. It says, I want to continue worshiping my idol. It isn't the free world in that respect, Even America has laws against satanic cults, right? So even the liberals have limits where they draw their limits. The Torah says certain things can't be done, and the Torah says because of their corrupt practices, they lost their right to the land, to Eretz Yisrael. It was given to them by Kodesh Baruch Hu in the first place. And he says, I'm not letting you run it anymore. That's all. That's not the same as simply going in and murdering like the Romans. You ask a Roman, why is he besieging a city? The answer is, because I have a stronger army. That's all. I don't ask questions.
That's like me moving into your living room with a sword and saying, listen, you can live here, it's fine, you just have to follow these rules.
That's right. But that's the rule of and what about Kodesh Baruch Hu? He says, I don't want you worshiping idols. If you do, I'm setting up courts and I'm going to have you killed. That's right. It's my world, and I'm telling you, you can't do that. Period.
Yeah, are we missing the point that Israel, in our opinion, was ours, so it's not we were moving into someone else's land, like what he's talking about?
Well, the description we have in the Torah is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to them, and only because of their corrupt conduct did they lose it. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, he foresaw the corrupt conduct and everything else, but he says at a certain point, the sin of the Amori isn't complete yet, so you can't go in yet. It's going to take a little more time till they pass the threshold, and then I'm going to push them out and put them. But Kadosh Baruch Hu is the owner of the world, and he can decide who lives where and where they live. I'm only saying Kadosh Baruch Hu did not tell us wipe out these people.
We said there's an idea that reason why we were allowed to take Eretz Yisrael because they took the land. The Bnei Chum took the land from Bnei Shem, and we take it back. That's what Rashi says. Machnani Os Ba'oretz. Rashi says because they took the land from Shem, and we came and took it back.
That's something else. I didn't take that into account. But even there, okay.
But I'm asking.
I think it's an interesting point. It's an interesting point, and it may be worth adding in. But we're doing an end run on the whole thing. If someone will say, some clever Mexican inventor will invent a new weapon, and say in the United States, we're taking Texas back. You took it from us, we're getting it back. I think most people will say, history doesn't work that way. You don't go back that many years and make a claim on something. Well, conquest after a while becomes the norm, becomes a settled fact. Right? So the fact that the MRE took it over from 1,000 years before, 500 years before, to say that it isn't really theirs, maybe you could say that. Maybe you could say that. But I think the first Rashi in Chumash tells you don't need that. Even if it wouldn't have been so, you don't need that.
I know one Rashi is for the Umos, and one Rashi is for us. Rashi's telling us what is the justification. What is the justification of taking the land?
Yeah, but I know he says when the Umos are Olam, but this is where they say, when it says you should know what to answer to Apikoros, it means the inner Apikoros. Chazal say, why did Kodesh Baruch Hu create Chava? Because as long as Adam is single, Yomru, they will say he's God over the lower realms, like God is that Kodesh Baruch Hu is God of the over. Who's going to say? Who's there? There ain't nobody else. The Malachim are going to say, maybe the Malachim, maybe they were shtachim to him, but it means that's the way he's going to conceive of himself. That's the real thing.
What do you say about the other? There's a Milchemes Reshus to take other lands just to show power. That's what we said. One of the Milchemes Reshus is like Milchemes Beis Dovid to Harchiv Gvulos Eretz Yisrael. I think it says to show the koyach. Yeah.
Look at the Gemara in Brachos where they came to David Melech and they said, we can't have parnas. He said, have economic relations among yourselves. It's not enough. And he said, go out and fight. You look at the Marshaw. Marshaw said there were regular bands of robbers, and they used to pillage the shayarot, the caravans, and they were strangling the Jewish economy.
So it wasn't just stumped to...
No.
So you're allowed to separate families and beat your slave lightly because divine providence says that these people won't be able to take care of themselves.
That's right.
We don't have halachas, keep the kids together, don't beat the pulp out of them as long as you don't take out an eye or a tooth.
Well, first of all, it's 24 Evorim. If you cause any one of the 24 external organs to become non-functional, so then it automatically becomes free.
Tooth is probably the most likely one, right?
Now, no, I don't. Keeping the families together? I don't know. I don't think so. I know that what happens when you give a shifcha knanis to a Eved Ivri, and then he has a family. Then when he doesn't want to go free, he says, "I love my wife. I love my children." That does seem to sound like the family is together, and they weren't just scattered all over and sold. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the halachas are on that.
But also, you're allowed to beat him. You're allowed to whip him just as long as you're not,
I thought you had to take him to Beis Din, and the Beis Din would do it.
No, Eved Knani, I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, if you knock out a tooth, if you knock out a, if you cause a loss of any limb or the loss of the function of any limb, right? So then he goes free. So that's kind of set.
In the South, they didn't really do that.
Huh?
In the South, they didn't damage their goods. They didn't knock out eyes. They just torture him.
Who did? Who did you refer to?
In the South, I mean, what they did, it's like they knew what they were doing. They didn't cause any loss of property if they didn't want to.
Well, frankly, I don't know how serious the physical damage was. From the point of view of modern conception of justice, one flick of the ears is forbidden. But I don't know, or they didn't follow those rules. I don't know if in the South they followed the rules that if you cause them a finger to go lame, he goes free. I don't think they followed those rules. They based themselves on the Bible as long as it was convenient. And when it wasn't convenient anymore, then the Bible was no longer binding.
What I mean is, you're able to do a very significant amount cause a significant amount of pain without
Any psychological
causing any.
It could be. I don't know. It would be interesting to check because we have laws of Tzar Baalei Chaim, pain caused to animals, or animals suffering pain. I made a mistake about this. Rabbi Meisman corrected me just recently. Even an animal that doesn't belong to anybody, if you see that it's in pain, then you have some responsibility to relieve its pain. So under those conditions, to cause pain to another human being when it's not necessary, I can't imagine that wouldn't be prohibited. But I don't know. I don't know the halacha directly, so I can't comment on it directly. But that Rambam in Hilchos Malachim Perek Vav, you should read that Rambam. It's many people don't know about it. Black-hatted people with velvet yarmulkes, lined velvet yarmulkes, don't know about it, and they will say glibly that the Torah prescribes genocide, and how could we be worried about other people? And it's simply not true. Yeah.
The parasha we were talking about before, of Kisayil Borim Bnei Vonim, which we were in Tishma. So the Gemara says, "V'nei shantem ba'aretz." V'nei shantem is Gemara 852 years. The whole parasha only applies if you're 852 years in the land. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu was nice to us and chucked us out after 850 years, and so we got away without this parasha. So is this parasha written for no time then? Because when we're going to ever have this parasha apply? We know Shantam is only after 852 years, so we never got that.
Okay, but the tokacha in Kisavo is much worse than this. Much worse than this. So you have to ask yourself, what do you have here that you're missing that makes a difference when you have to suffer what it says in Kisavo, which is much, much longer and much more difficult than this. Much more difficult.
I think because the Ki Ovei Ta'avedum. It says here, Ki Ovei Ta'avedum Me'at, right?
Yeah, it says that in Kisavo also. Yeah.
If we were in control of the world, would we kill everybody professing to be an atheist?
That's a very interesting question. First of all, I'm not clear on the responsibilities that we have for what non-Jews do. I believe I saw, but then I looked for it, I couldn't find it again. I believe I saw a Rambam who says that we have to root out idol worship everywhere in the world. Are we responsible for all the other mitzvos that non-Jews have? I'm not sure. I'm not aware.
The Sheva mitzvah is only we're controlling.
But you asked if we're controlling the world.
Right.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to send out secret underground forces, to kill idol-worshipping priests and so on and so on. Now, I will tell you something which my Rabbi Meisman told me on the basis of Ramban. when I tell this to people, first of all, they tell me I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then when I show them the book, they turn it upside down. And they, and then they go get a glass of water and try, not to faint. When Shimon and Levi kill out Shechem, and Yaakov Avinu is very upset, and he doesn't forgive them. And when it comes to blessing his children at the end of his life, he says, you are going to historically be treated in a certain way, in part because of that terrible thing that you did. So what was the crime? So the Ramban says, look, they did accept bris milah, circumcision. And if they did that, then maybe over time you could have reformed them entirely. Now, this is the Ramban who says that the justification for killing them was that they were idol worshippers. Against the Rambam who said they should have set up courts of justice, Ramban says they're idol worshippers, right? So Rabbi Meisman puts two and two together and he says, and if they had reformed, so what? We understand that when you have a liability in a human court, your change of character and your reformation, everything else don't count. Certainly for Jewish law it's that way. You commit a crime that's a capital crime and then you become a wonderful person, reformed everything else, capital punishment goes through. It makes no difference how you change. He said, from this Ramban you see that for Goyim it's not that way. That if they will change and repair themselves, a human court won't touch them either.
Before you kill them.
No, you don't touch them. Because, again, what is Yaakov saying to Shimon and Levi? He shouldn't have killed them. What do you mean he shouldn't have killed them? They're idol worshippers. He himself says that they're liable as idol worshippers. You shouldn't have killed them. Why? Because maybe they would have given it up. So what if they give it up? They were. The human court doesn't take account of the fact that you changed, so they have to be killed anyway.
And most we could see from the Ramban is that if they show indications of being changeable, then you don't kill them.
No, again, so let's start over again. I'm not talking now about in the middle. I'm talking about drawing a raya from the end. It's what follows from the Ramban's discussion is that if they will change entirely, you don't kill them. Why not? If a Jew does a crime that requires high capital punishment and he changes entirely, you will kill him. So what do we care if they're going to change entirely? So kill them early. What difference does it make? They've got to die anyhow. No, if they change entirely, you won't kill them. That's something that would be absolutely unique. Now, the Gemara talks about Gerim. There were Amalekite Gerim. How could they do that? How could they accept them? So it seems that even in a... So someone wanted to say they weren't Adim, but if that's the case, then you have a kind of leniency vis-a-vis Goyim that you don't have vis-a-vis Jews, that if they repair themselves, they can avoid being killed in a human court.
But what we talk about is just that we do talk about going being chayiv misa if they're every one of the Shem mitzvahs. So here we say that you do kill them for that. Just the only thing you could possibly bring them is if you think it's possible for them to change, or if you didn't catch them in time and now they change.
Being chayiv misa doesn't mean that you kill them. They are required. One of their mitzvahs is to set up courts of justice and to administer justice.
For the Zion mitzvahs?
Sorry?
It's for more than the Zion mitzvahs. It's for everything. Right?
Well, it depends. First of all, there's a question of mishpatim. There are two days of mishpatim. One is that they have to take over our civil and criminal law, and then they have to administer it. Choshev mishpat. That's not choshev mishpat. The other is to make their own civil and criminal law. But of course, for stealing and for certain sexual crimes and for blaspheming and for avodah zarah and for every manachai, those are things which their courts are supposed to take care of. No question about it. Well, the question is whether we have any responsibility to take care of the non-Jews, except for where we live. Where we live, we have a responsibility. So beyond that, it may be that we don't have responsibility for that. The only thing I seem to remember somewhere, I think it's the Hilchos of Avodah Zarah, where the Rambam says that we have a responsibility to try to wipe out Avodah Zarah in the whole world. Because Avodah Zarah is, the root of everything.
Atheism is worse.
So it's not clear. You started to ask about atheism. It's not clear. The Rambam does seem to indicate that, but it's not clear across the board that others agree with him. And it's not clear that he would say it's worse in every respect. For example, far as I know, in the entire Yerka Mitzvos, there's no principle that if a person is an atheist, you kill him.
Rambam would say it's because it's worse. Obviously, if somebody believes in something, then but it's wrong, then you kill him. Of course, if he believes in nothing, it's a danger to society.
But you can't make a kal v'chomer for Mises Bezdin, right? And Rambam writes a Mishnah Torah. The Mishnah Torah is a complete list of all the halachas that are going to be done in the times of Mashiach. And I don't know that I think there he ever mentions an atheist as a person who's chayav misa that has to be executed.
What, a guy who steals, so we're going to share mitzvah, I'm going to say he's chayav misa, even less than a pruta. He steals 1 penny, and he's in chayav misa. What does that mean? We expect a court to put like somebody who steals less than a penny.
I mean, I don't know what the question is. The creator of the universe said that that's what should be done, and if you are concerned with how the creator of the universe thinks about you, then you'll do that. I mean, what's the question? To expect him to do it, or just to fight for it because it seems so trivial?
Why is it so severe? Yeah. Why does God see it so severe?
Why are you asking why it's so severe? Why do you ask why God made it so severe? Is that really the be-all and end-all of your obedience to Hakadosh Baruch Hu? Even a goy knows that you don't expect to understand the gods in their terms in all respects.
But for a Jew, it's a pruta. A Jew is pruta.
Because of mechila, only because of presumed mechila. Only because of presumed mechila. That's all. Otherwise, it's the same lav. It's the same lav.
He doesn't die.
No, that has nothing to do with pruta. You're mixing up issues.